and welcome back to a Trekyards mission briefing. It is Wednesday. You know exactly what that means. It's a free-flow review, discussion, theorization show looking at a ship, space station, shuttle, thingy-mabobby from the multitude of Trek canon, non-canon, side canon, book canon, comic canon, fan canon, stow canon, new canon, retro canon, reverse canon, the canon that fires cannonballs. I'm sure there's some sort of canon in Star Trek. Stuart's looking at me a certain way that, yeah. Anyway, so Stuart, this is your pick for today. So tell us what, how, who, and if this week's episode.
Well, today's ship's pretty cool, actually, and it comes from one of our friends here at Trekyards, Simon Marino. Does a lot of really cool work.
Doesn't stop.
Helped design one of our logos and stuff. Anyway, does some fantastic stuff. And as a result of that, he came up with this cool little ship. This is the Uss Defender. And this, well, it's a nice little ship. And we're going to talk about it. And little, yeah. Anyway.
There's just one defiant joke. That's the only thing anyone ever says. You know?
Right?
I mean, you can't say, yeah, it's the first one of the Quantums. No, you always say it's a little ship. And everyone looks at you like, ha ha ha. Until you realize you've made 350 shows and that you've made that joke. God knows how many times, which would be a super cut of us. Yeah, no. Mission briefing, fanship, obviously. Some always puts lots of thought in. I guess I'll do look at first because you're the announcer. Yeah, it's cool. It's a I wouldn't say refined. It's a defiant with a different purpose that's been redesigned after like 7 years, sort of. Well, 7 years to use new warp technology in a good way, and enhance the best parts of what the ship could do, maneuverability and weapons and speed, and just try the next gen version of said thing. And it's nice. I want to dissect it more. So what's your first thoughts?
On my first thought, I really like the shape and the design of it overall. It does remind me a lot of the Millennium Falcon, which was kind of one of its inspirations. And you'll see that more in other views. He should have put the center part at the front offset. Would have been kind of neat. But that would have been too obvious, right?
Or a sensor dish coming out the top. Old school deflector.
Exactly, yeah.
And in the refit it goes square. It's a rectangle.
Yes. No, but I really liked it. I thought it was really cool and really worth looking at. I do like the Defiant design somewhat. Not a huge fan of it as following the lineage of Starship designs from the Federation. But looking at it separately as a purpose-built ship, I love the compactness of it, and this one really follows that as well. So.
Well, that's one of the weird ones, because the Defiant is such a change of it. Well, okay, it is and isn't. It has every component that a Trek ship has, just in a different form and different place. So if you look at it and start pulling elements apart, it's everything together. But here we are complaining about some maybe incorrect decisions design-wise for current iterations of Trek. But I wasn't, when I was watching that sort of Trek, it would have been out for a year or two or three, so it was just part of the fleet. It was not a big revelation. I don't know what the feedback was at the time, but I think it was pretty much universally loved, despite it being a break from the norms. So it was interesting that we sort of celebrate it, even though it is so different. And the joke being that it was a sketch of an alien ship that was picked and then chained and then tweaked. But it's an alien ship that wasn't designed, just like I can't remember another ship, but it's designed not to be. Oh, like the Franklin. It wasn't designed to be an X-era ship, but then it was made an X-era ship. This wasn't designed to be a Federation ship. It was designed to be an alien ship, and then boom, it's tweaked, and then So it's weird that we're then, does this new one, this Defender, does this look more Starfleet then? Taking the original concept and then reconfiguring it, have we re-Star Trekified it more? Your thoughts?
I would say yes, to be honest. I mean, it's got more of that saucer vibe to it, the Standard Federation saucer. So I would say yes to what you just said, if that makes any sense.
It's a lot more of a Lost in Space ship vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Both of them, actually. The new one as well.
Yeah, there you go. Well, let's go to the
It's a good shape though. It's like an oval, but with I mean, it obviously works. It's familiar yet different. But you were saying, sorry.
Let's go to the next picture, actually.
That's more defiant-y. Like it evokes the same feel more.
Yeah. That front deflector, though, looks more... I want to say more NX-ish. More NX era, because it's not as wide open as the Defiance. I do prefer this one, to be honest with you. I kind of like the hidden aspect of it. And the curvature of it is really neat. But my question is that where it docks? Is there a docking port there?
No, and yet yes. And I will say,
like
just disclaimer, this isn't in Star Trek Online. That's just some nice fan edits for, Simon wanted to put it on because that sort of could be a stow ship, but it isn't. So ignore that, guys. It looks really cool. Yeah, the deflector, I mean, I like the simplicity of the original a lot, actually. I think this one, again, I always hope and want these things to be form follows function, so it's got that back piece, which is the same thing as the Defiant, that same pattern, the same feel. There's another piece, so, we refine deflector technology to only need to be the outer bit. The inner bit can be a Polaron waveform sensor palette.
Or disintegrator beam.
Transmography. Whatever. So it implies there's something else going on there. But yeah, it's certainly more dish-y than just the flat plane of some later stuff. But the shape certainly works well.
And what about those red things on the bottom? What do you think those are? I think those are torpedo launchers?
Well, they've got the same texture as the Bassards, so my guess would be, just important as part of the warp drive. And it's interesting, if you want to just break the fourth wall of skipping, if you go to picture 6, you can see a top view. They're just the phaser rifle scope reversed from First Contact on the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it's a great shape. So they could be aft torpedo launchers with a forward Bassard, because they've got blue elements for grills. They've got red, so it does imply to me it's a secondary warp system, to let them go even faster. And I kind of dig that. Having secondary, tertiary warp things. Certainly interesting. But if you stick back to 3. Sorry to break the fourth wall there of skipping ahead, or sorry, picture 2. But I think warp, part of the warp matrix, to give it extra bump, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it would, for me, it would work to have torpedo launchers there as well. That'd be a really cool place for them.
Well, if you look at where the weapons are, I mean, you've got the same quantum launchers where it would be. Then you've got pulse phasers in front of those. And then you've also got them underneath. They've already got 6 launchers at the side bits. What more do you need, Stuart? What more do you need?
More firepower. Yes. But the next picture is a shot of it from the back and the bottom there. And there we see blue elements at the back of those red elements that we're just talking about. So very much seems like a warp tie-in as well. Now, obviously, the center part is the impulse engine. But what are the blue parts at the back, the mesh elements?
Well, that's what the conventional warp drive units look like on the normal Defiant. And yet it's got these side wraparound units. So it might have 8 sets of warp field generating pieces. It's a lot. What do you think? Is it redundancy? Is it super speed? Is it special sort of warp? Is it trans warp? If that's not, you don't need that sort of grill assembly for that. What do you think?
I would hope it's redundancy. Just packing more engines on doesn't necessarily make it much faster.
Well, because it doesn't generate thrust. You need more power. You need better.
Yeah.
It's about other things, but it's about stability, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I gotta ask Simon about that, because I'd love to learn what he had intended.
and this is why the fun of doing it, is that he can be watching this right now and say, of course
he's
they're
ripping his
this.
hair out. He's ripping his hair out, going, no, you're not getting it all wrong.
And yet we see things and be like, ah ha ha ha, but I see this. I do see the little blue sort of sphere things, circle things at the back. So it's nice that he's just redistributed the same components of the Defiant.
Yeah.
Although this still feels simpler. Like it still, in terms of hull detail, it still feels less than Defiant.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It seems much more advanced than the Defiant. It looks like a future version for sure. And those round elements, I'm glad he incorporated those on the top because they match the Falcon look of having the big fans at the back with the. So that was really cool.
But what do you think about the wraparound engines and the middle impulse engine, like we see it?
I like the idea of the middle impulse engine. That's pretty cool, and the wraparound on the side, it works in this case. I don't know if I necessarily would myself would have done that, but I do really like the way it comes across.
We've seen a couple of other fan ships that have that. And it's certainly a potential future version. It's certainly a possible. I certainly like it, although there's a problem when it gets too sleek. Too sleek for Trek, It's like you like the linear. This is, I think, a lot of why people don't like the J as much. It's too advanced for what we know. There's a point where you want those familiar design conventions. Because if you go further and further and further, you're losing. That's why a lot of Star Trek Online ships look more generic, because they're just pushing certain sort of shapes, and it's like, well, whereas yet most of the Trek ships that we've seen are all sort of classics, for reason or for another. Nothing dissing those guys. I'm just noting. And with this ship, it is worth saying that the original Defiant, the impulse drives were very sort of hidden. There were two single red circle units inside of a housing. It really focused on the warp unit. So actually, it's now would seem to me have a lot more impulse thrust and a lot more focused. Although obviously a single target. But I think you called it earlier. It's a Millennium Falcon connection for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Probably much more maneuverable with that size impulse engine as well. Now the next picture is one of the concepts that was done for the Defiant. This one's USS Valiant though, and I think this is basically besides the Falcon, one of his main inspirations for doing the Defender. And you can definitely see the tie-ins there. He just took this shape and kind of just kept going with it and made it the shape that we see now. I'm not really a fan of this version, the Valiant.
It's really interesting. And I love that, the original name for the Defiant was Valiant, but then Voyager was called V, so they had to change it. It was Valiant right until the end. And obviously this one would be hard to make as a physical miniature. There's a lot more shapes. Defiant's actually quite simple, one of its charms. But yeah, you can see certainly the warp weapon bits, the sort of weapon bits are sticky out here. And in fact, Jim did a potential refit of the Defiant, which has, I think, elements that Simon used. I always love the idea of pulling these elements from these designers, because if they thought of it originally, then their brains can tie connections and make things make sense that we can sort of think about as fans, but they really can connect them. But yeah, this is certainly an interesting one, and it would work better as a fighter, I think, like as a smaller craft.
I was going to say, I was just might to mention scale as you said that, because the person is quite. You couldn't fit many people in this.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see this person. Yeah, that's tiny. Well, they're still going. That's probably just half the runabout phase. Like, let's make it a runabout. Yeah. Well,
this is closer to like Millennium Falcon scale, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
anyway,
that's a single deck craft, surely. Maybe two, maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway, not the ship we're looking at. So.
Yeah, but definitely a cool piece of Star Trek history, and we love talking about that kind of stuff. So, next shot is, again, it's the full orthos of the ship. And here from the front, it looks very much like the Defiant. The other angles, not so much. The side view really gives me that Falcon feel again, which the Defiant doesn't do. But I really love this thing. I think it's a cool design, especially the like I said, those circular round bits at the back are very reminiscent of the fans on the Falcon, and the front detailing he has is reminiscent of the cockpit on the Falcon as well. The details he's added there, very much like the windows on the Falcon's cockpit.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. The side looks like the main Falcon. The top looks like the concept that we just saw. Like, it's more evident in the top view. But the front, to me, is too flat. The Defiant has got a slight curve to it. It is a bit more three-dimensional. Like, the nose does dip down, and the wings do dip down. It's too flat. Like, for example, I think someone would point out, there's the most minuscule line of sight with the Defiant engines if you sort of... It's like an absolute teeny. This obviously breaks that completely. So it is too flat. It feels more like a drone, more like a...
Do you think, though, having said that it breaks the line of sight on this one, maybe those units on the top and bottom are to maintain line of sight? Very slight line of sight? Should that be a thing? I personally don't believe in the line of sight rule, but we do have to bring it up here occasionally.
I like to say that I like to say now, I guess, I've sort of come to the conclusion that line of sight isn't required, but it's the ideal situation for the stablest and best warp field. And it was needed for early, but they were able to work around it. But to still get to the best and safest warp field, line of sight is the best thing to have for conventional Federation tech. That's how I sort of make sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, we were talking about those units above and below, and I think that might be some kind of tie-in for that. So,
although, do you really want the line of sight energy to be literally above and below the bridge?
Yep.
I
do.
Good. good. I mean, what do you think about the wraparound more that we're seeing it in 3 dimensions? Because it's like, do you wish he'd cut into the hull and made them not, but still have those angles? Just a bit of a cut to make them separate units. Would that look better? Do you think, or having it all integrated is the way to go?
No, I think the way it's integrated here is way better, and it makes it seem more advanced, more, technologically the next step, as opposed to making them look separate. That's kind of what I think. It looks more advanced because of that. I love the integration.
I mean, curvy. I mean, just the whole organic shapes is part of the a lot of the time the advanced feel. Cool. Although no external greeblies that the Definer has. No, random greebly panels.
Yeah, well, again, that adds to the advancement of it, right? Next shot is just the side view, and again, I love all the elements on this thing. This is really a neat ship. And the fact that the delta, the pinstripe curves around is neat. Yeah. You don't really see that usually. It's usually just straight. But I think it really works well here with the shapes. So,
and it's nice because in this one we can see they've got those little yellow fins that are, or griller plates that are on the D on Voyager. Lovely place to put them. That's a great way of doing it. And there are the Voyager style greebly panels, although I think that's just a texture in the side there, which is a nice little cool forward, cool back, whatever as well. It's cool. It is too flat. I do think the engines should actually. I think they should come both up and below.
The Defiant, because the Defiant's kind of bulk out.
Yeah, I would honestly, I would keep that in because that would also give it a bigger sense of power. If you want to make those things above and below weapons, or even add weapon tubes, so make it all just torpedo. A deck of just these are launchers. If you want to really quadruple down on the weapons because it's already pretty well armed. But that's just me. I think it's just unnecessary. Like one of the problems of Discovery, it looks so flat. This looks too flat. But easy to work on.
I kind of like the flatness in this case because it does say that next technological leap, making it sleek. But then, yeah. Anyway, speaking of weapons, the next picture has it firing just like the Defiant, the pulse kind of style, which is neat. That always seems like it's boom, 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 impactful. I kind of in Star Trek 2 with the pulse phasers, I wasn't super impressed with that. I prefer the phaser beam to kind of be a zzz cutting, but have multiple settings, obviously. But these little plasma bolts that the Defiant always uses in Deep Space Nine, just look so powerful the way they hit. So
And the sound effect.
yeah,
It was good design when they designed it.
Yeah.
Again, the Defiant is a great example. I mean, the bridge is great. The outside's great. The way it's all put together. That as a cloak. I mean, it was a lot of stuff all thrown in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that it was better than some of its parts and a happy accident, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas the Runabout, not necessarily better than some of its parts and didn't quite work as well. The Runabout's very vanilla. Well, at least for me, it never really it's just it's the Runabout. I'm glad that's one of the things I don't like about the first season of DS9. They keep using runabouts. I'm like, I really don't care about these barely shuttles. I know they're not shuttles, but they feel like shuttles. It's all like, oh, okay, yeah. And that's just me. So we all know DS9 gets good when the Defiant arrives. Defiant and Wharf and Dominion and all this stuff, like that's when it gets good. Or at least interesting, I'll say. I won't say good, but interesting.
I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that assessment.
Because you need spaceships in Star Trek.
Anyway, back to the first picture. This is a fantastic looking ship. So thank you, Simon, for sending it our way. He has done like the bridge details and some other stuff, which we'll look at eventually. We just for a mission briefing, it was a little too much, so we just want to talk about just the exterior of the ship for now. But I think it's awesome. I love the Millennium Falcon tie-in, especially since I'm going to see Solo this week. So it tells you when this was filmed.
Yes, or several weeks ago, depending on when it all comes out. Or
yes,
who knows? Yeah, no, it's a cool design. It's taking what is the fans of a not prom, but we're a very kitbashy culture when it comes to designing Trek ships, or going really the other direction, and those ships tend to be either quite well liked, or at least appreciated, or at least thought, wow, that's really weird. This is an interesting hybrid of okay, I'd love to know if he really sketched it first, like if he knew he wanted the wraparound engines at the start, or he wanted this and this, or if he just sort of pulled it all together as he went, because a lot of the time in 3D you can just say, oh, let me try this, it works better, which is absolutely fine, because it kind of comes together really well. I'd love to know if he did actually sketch it that way or plan it, but I think I'd love to see this model, because Simon's a good modeler, but obviously we're used to seeing Defiant as a physical miniature, which was hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then as a really good CG model. I'd love to see this fleshed out even more, added more geometry, because it doesn't feel at scale yet. It doesn't feel, it feels, it might just be a 3D detail, might make it feel very flat, or lack thereof. I'd love to see it fleshed out more, given more of a professional detailing. I think you could really expand on this even more and make it something, even more classic.
Yeah, I agree. But having said Solo, now I want to see that center module detached, because in the Defiant that did detach, have that detached and have two little mandibles there afterwards, so it does look more like the Falcon. That would be kind of neat. I had to throw that in. I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking at this going, that would be kind of cool now. But anyway. Thank you, as always, for watching.
Just staying silent on that one, like the fans judge you.
Well, yeah.
Can be a fan of Trek and Star Wars.
I am.
Yeah. If you're not, you're weird.
That's right. So, if you guys want to help us out, you can do so by heading over to Patreon. The link's in the description of all of our videos, or head over to Patreon/Trekyards. Also, Trekyards.com. You can do a one-time donation, or of course, share the video. That always helps out. So,
yeah, or just go onto our Facebook pages, join the conversation, be part of the community, say hi, enjoy the stuff, share, as he said, and be part of this great old family we call Trekyards.
And one of the most important things, guys, obviously, is clicking like. And just a quick click of the like button really helps us out. So please do that and subscribe.
The other most important thing, is subscribe, and then the other most important thing is to share. They're all important, guys. They all help. Thank you.
That's right. So until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
I got
Bye.